All right, we're here at Levi's after the 49ers lose again. Do we bother playing the band? Here we go. There we go. Let's get the music going. Oh, man. Losing at home to the Arizona Cardinals. Oof. It's rough. Really rough. Welcome to the Kruger Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So get there early. Go say hi to Damon. Go say hi to Mary. Get some brisket. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. Also, we're brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264. And our good friends, and we should tell you that this live stream, thank you, sir, is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. That's right. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get that first deposit matched up to $200. Thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, we get this thing rolling. It's roughly 5:30 West Coast, 8:30 East Coast. I'm here at Levi's. Kev's in his studio. The great Rye Smith is in the house. Dan Coach Emilio is in the green room. I see him over there. We're about to add Danny. There we go. Danny huddling with Buster to find out who the next GM is going to be of the Giants. And who knows? Maybe we'll get a few more people stopping by here before long. But guys, man, this one was ugly. This is a tough loss for the 49ers. They're now 0-2 in the division, and people are losing confidence. I mean, I'll just read this one right here. Let me take a look at the chat here. Make sure if I get this. We got a lot of people in the chat already. We're off and running. G. San says, I think Kyle Shanahan's reign is coming to an end. Please, Krug, no more excuses. Kyle Shanahan has to leave at the end of the season. It no longer works. He is no longer creative. In fact, he's very predictable. What do you guys think? Don't all jump in at once.
Well, they are looking a little predictable on offense. I think we're seeing that they really miss CMC. I think it makes a huge difference in the way they design plays up, the way the defense schemes things. CMC, he's a total different figure out there. When you put him out there on the field, you don't know what's coming. And I think they are a little bit one-dimensional right now without him.
Is he the reason they're struggling in the red zone? What do you think?
Yes, for sure.
Definitely.
He scored 18 TDs last year in the red zone.
I mean, okay, he is very helpful to the red zone, but at the same time, they should be able to convert with the guys that they have.
They should.
The running game they have. Ultimately, I'm never one to really question Kyle like too much. I'm never on that train of like, oh, we got to fire Kyle. It's a disaster. I do feel a little weird about this season. Like even in 2021, 2022, when they started like 3-5, 3-4, that was the first time I was on the Krug Show. It was in 22, and I was like vehement. Oh, it's going to be all right. Everything's going to work out. This year, they're still going to win the division, but it just doesn't feel like this is a team that's going to make it to back to the Super Bowl, let alone win one. George Kittle. I mean, Ayuk had a great game. I thought Kittle played a very poor game. He did get the touchdown, which kind of saved his day, but for the most part, I thought he played pretty poor. Where the hell is Deebo Samuel? Just did not see him. He was a little bit involved at the beginning of the game. They ran the ball well with Mason. But yeah, it seems like Kyle's almost like gotten too comfortable in this like Purdy drop back pass game. And if there's a knock on Purdy that everyone says, the kind of most annoying guys on the internet, like Steven Ruiz and shit, Those guys say that his issue is that he holds onto the ball too long and he creates pressures for himself. And I even heard Belichick talking about it when he was breaking down the Vikings defense. He was showing some game clips from Purdy versus the Vikings. He's like, look, that's not going to happen to Rodgers, even though it kind of did. But he's like, that's not going to happen to Rodgers. Purdy holds the ball longer than any quarterback in the league. So just a couple things thrown out there.
Yeah, Brady even mentioned it on one play. He said the last play of the was it the half where they got it down to 1 second? Yeah. And he said, Brady said, he held on to that ball a lot longer than I would have.
You know, I brought this up the other day on one of the live streams. I think it was with Coach Saturday morning. And, it's just that one of the main reasons that Kyle Shanahan is a big Elijah Mitchell fan and seemingly less of a Jordan Mason fan is what you saw today and what you never saw from Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell never fumbles. And Jordan Mason has fumbled a lot. Now he hasn't lost a lot of fumbles, but he sure has. The ball has popped out of his hand at least a half dozen times this summer in the things that I've watched. I mean, maybe one or two of them was practice, but it seems like the ball pops out at least once a game. And that was a crushing fumble. And then the other thing, it's like, I'll tell you the one, and I mentioned this to John Lund and Adam Copeland and Dennis Brown on KMBR a few minutes ago. I'm a big Kyle Shanahan fan myself, but what was he doing in the second quarter? Passing on 3rd and goal from the 1 and then kicking a field goal on 4th and goal. I mean,
run it twice.
Run it twice. You have Jordan Mason. He's 240 pounds. He's only played about 10 games in the league, but every single game he averages 5.5 yards a carry. Oh no, not today. Today he averaged 6.4 yards a carry, and he can't get a 1st and goal from the 1. I mean, imagine if you have Jordan Mason on your fantasy team. You're sitting there going, "What the hell?" I mean, this guy's 235, 240. He's averaging 6.5 a pop, and he can't get a carry on the goal line. And then you go for the field goal. I just think that Shanahan on that I don't think he goes for touchdowns enough. And then it seems there's no rhyme or reason to when he gets conservative that I can tell.
Yeah, he doesn't have any consistency on that. He throws a lot when he should be running, and then he runs when he should throw. I don't know. It was pretty crazy today. It kind of felt like they were going to lose that game in the second half. You could just kind of felt like that Cal Miami game last night. It's just like you could see it coming that they were going to lose by 1 point when they made that 2-point conversion.
Yeah, but I mean, that Miami team's a whole lot better than Cal. And the Niners are supposed to be the better team, and they're at home. They're now 0-2 in the division. I'll say, I mean, to me, okay, so if we're blaming people, I blame Shanahan for not going for the touchdown and going for the field goal on 4th and 1. Obviously, you got to blame Mason for fumbling the ball in the 4th quarter. That was a crusher. But I mean, where was the Niner defensive line? They only got 1 sack. It was Leonard Floyd. They only got 2 pressures. They only got 2 hits on the quarterback. They both came from Leonard Floyd. I mean, the 49ers did not really they only had 4 TFLs on the day. 1 of them was Floyd, 2 were Bosa, 1 was Warner. There wasn't anything on the other side of the line of scrimmage all day.
I thought this game was just extremely disappointing and frustrating because, I mean, the Rams game was a terrible loss, but this one was just worse because if you're looking at this Cardinals team, like what did they do so well? Like what did they do to win this game? It kind of felt like the Niners gave it to them. I went back and looked at the box score. This is the 49ers offensive drives in the second half. Yeah. Interception, turnover on downs, fumble, interception. So they practically they turned over the ball.
They only had it four times in the second half.
Yeah, 2 picks, a fumble, and a turnover on downs because they didn't have a field goal kicker.
And yeah, part of the reason they only had the ball 4 times is because the Cardinals decided to run the ball, and the Niners defense couldn't stop it.
Right.
James Conner in the first half had 9 yards on 6 carries. In the second half, he had 77 on 13 carries.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to their. It looks like they don't arm tackle.
They got gassed.
They don't wrap.
It was 96 degrees in the 4th quarter, and they got gassed. They looked terrible against the run in the 4th quarter. I mean, give you an example. It was 1-2 a carry is what Connor averaged in the first half. In the second half, he averaged 5.9 a carry. 5.9 a carry, and he just ran through arm tackles. And Hufanga got hurt on a play where he slipped off the tackle. Yeah, I mean, they were good against I mean, they didn't stop. I mean, really, I'll tell you the two plays that burned them in this game really badly. Obviously, the Kyler 50-yard touchdown. Dude, how do you let a quarterback go 50 yards untouched? I mean, I realize he's a quarterback and he's quick, but I mean, my God, I mean, 50 yards, you got to have, you know, you don't have enough speed on defense if a quarterback can run 50 yards on a straight quarterback designed run and nobody gets a finger on him. I mean, that was embarrassing. But then I'll tell you the fourth quarter run where he scrambled for 13, that was painful, man. Because before that, they were not in field goal range. After that run, I think they were at the 32-yard line, and then it was just burn clock, kick the field goal, and get out of here.
How about the one where he just kind of tossed up and Marvin Harrison got it?
Right. No, the Niners defense wasn't good when it mattered. That fourth down pass.
Who was on the coverage on
Isaac Yiadom?
Isaac Yiadom, yeah.
Who I thought played
he
played okay against Harrison during the game. I thought he didn't play terrible.
But
he
on the ball that you're
well
talking about, that ball hung in the air. He could have watched he could have read a short story and had a chance to compete for that thing. And he didn't make any play on the ball at all. And it was just a duck.
If that was the Super Bowl and that was the 49ers and Kittle, they would have called a push off, but
right.
It wasn't. Give Harrison credit though, because as a rookie receiver, he's already learned how to create some separation. He gave just the slightest push, enough that he got he got some separation, but not enough to really get called for it. Just very, very, I thought it was pretty genius of him. It's a good move by him.
I feel like our just secondary in general, like I feel like there's a lot of plays and a lot of them, they weren't called for PIs, but there's just a lot of plays where they just didn't even turn their head back and like maybe hit off their helmet or hit off their back and they got lucky.
It doesn't it also, I don't know if you guys notice this, but doesn't it seem like Diamador Lenore is involved in the Niners run defense, like way more than even some of their linebackers? I mean, it seems like Diamador Lenore, he's a straight dog, man. That guy will absolutely throw his body in there. He plays for keeps. He plays for real. He's like a small version of Greenlaw out there. And then the rest of their linebackers, it's like, it is time to see Winters. It is time to see Jalen Graham. Come on, the second half of this game. I mean, and then I'll say this. I mean, to me, the second half was obviously they wilted a little bit, but when I when I watched I only got a chance to take one quick look at the 50-yard Kyler run. But I'm pretty sure Campbell had a poor run fit on that play. Do you guys remember the play, Kev? Do you remember
on the Kyler touchdown?
On the Kyler 50-yard run where he went untouched, I felt like Campbell was.
There were two things on that play. There was two things on that play. Campbell got blocked by McBride. He couldn't get off the block, and Kyler ran right past him. The other thing is Talanoa Hufanga was the high safety. He got sucked into the run way longer than he should have. I think all the linebackers converging up the middle, it made Talanoa think that the ball was somewhere in that zone. So he came down really hard, and then it was too late. Kyler was past him. So I think those two people really blew the play up, and then it's just untouched for a touchdown.
Osa too, I think, on that play. I haven't really watched it, but
another play that really hurt them. Obviously, I mean, they made the great special teams play with the blocked field goal touchdown, the first big special teams play of the year. And then the next play, the kickoff, they botch it again on the coverage, and it pretty much lost them the game because they couldn't kick a field goal, and they had to go for, and Arizona knew that. So it changed the way you play defense when the team's got to get a touchdown. So I thought Moody having to make that play was just ridiculous. How do you get through?
It's crazy how in a game where they score a touchdown on special teams, the special teams is still what lets them down in the end.
Exactly.
Because that was huge. And that decision by the Cardinals to go for 2 on the roughing the passer, or they went for it on 4th down to get the 2-point conversion, or not the 4th down, on the 2-point conversion. That play, like that ended the game pretty much, because then they went up 2. So when they kicked a field goal, they went up 1, knowing the Niners can't kick a field goal to win the game or to tie the game. So.
Exactly. They would have had to. Niners would have had to get it down to about the 10-yard line to get probably
in a close game. Not having a kicker is just brutal. It's just
it's brutal.
You can't do anything. I mean, that screwed them
in 2024, especially. Like,
right.
Well, I mean, they would have brought Moody on for a long field goal in that one. Instead, they go for it on 4th and 23. So that cost them 3 points, and they wound up losing the game by 2, right?
Yeah, exactly.
By 1.
Exactly.
By 1. Yeah, they lose by 1, and that cost them 3 right there. But to me, okay, so if somebody came to you and said, man, I know you're all up on the Niners and watched the Niners, and I didn't see the game this week. I heard they lost. Why did they lose? What are you saying first? Mason fumbled. Kyle's too conservative. Brock had a couple turnovers. They lost their kicker to an injury. They went 1 for 6 in the red zone. What are you pointing to? What would be your?
Is all of the above a answer?
No, but if you got to pick one, get off the damn fence, Coach Emilio.
Pick one. I would.
Yeah.
Did you have anything in there about the defense getting shredded?
Yeah, I mean the defense. You can go with that. Defense got shredded for 5.9 a carry in the second half.
I'll take that one.
I'll take a shredded defense with a side of.
I'll take shredded defense for 400, please.
Yeah, shredded defense. Rye, what are you going with? What's the primary? It's funny. My buddy who's leaving said there's a lot of F Shanahans in the parking lot. Of course, always it's going to be that. But what would you say? Number one reason or the number one issue the Niners have as they sit here at 2-3 after 5 games?
I mean, this game, it was turnovers because, yes, they got the block kick return for a touchdown, but in the second half of the ball game, that's turnover on downs. So they turned the ball over with an interception, then they turned the ball over on downs, then they fumbled the ball away, and then they got an interception. They literally turned the ball over every time they got the ball. So you're not going to win when you do that.
Yeah.
It just ain't going to happen.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to say the exact same thing. It's offensive turnovers. I don't think they were having a great day offensively. Like Brock was a little shoddy with his accuracy, but just the turnovers were just brutal. Any added points that Jordan Mason contributed were completely stripped away when he fumbles the ball inside the 10. That's the game right there. You're driving down the field consistently. You're inside the 10. And you fumble the ball, they get the ball back, they kick a field goal, you don't have a kicker, they win by 1. That's the game right there. So,
but you know what? There's no law that said that the Niner defense had to just, Roberto Duran, no Moss. Because Mason fumbled that thing. They were going in for the touchdown. They were on the
inside
9-yard line of the Cardinals.
Yeah.
They were deep in the red zone there. So
then the
defense didn't have to let them go the length of the field, basically, and did.
Exactly. That's why. You can say it's both. If I'm picking one, pick the defense, because the defense has to be be able to stop Arizona in those situations, and they couldn't stop him in the second half. Connor, I don't know how many tackles he broke, but what happened to wrapping a guy instead of just trying to knock him over? You can't knock James Conner over.
Connor's an absolute hoss. Got to give it up to the guy as well.
You got to wrap, and then you got to gang tackle.
Everyone wrote that guy off. Obviously, he came in after Lev Bell had that weird holdout year when he came back from cancer, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's just the Steelers' offensive line." Then he leaves, goes to the Cardinals in free agency, and I feel like no one was really thinking about it. The guy's just been a monster now. He's got to be coming up on 29 years old, and he still is an absolute monster. And the difference with this 49ers defense, and where you can really see it different than years past, is in the past, everyone was running to the ball. It was gang tackling. Mm-hmm. It was the one team. Everyone was playing fast. And yeah, you saw it today. Even Fred Warner, just arm tackles. It's just not going to get it done.
This run D has been a joke for 2 years. That's the freaking truth. They lost Azeez Al-Shaair, they lost Ridgeway, they lost Ebukam, they lost Mosley, they lost Jimmy Ward. It was all they gutted their team of all their depth to go sign Hargrave. And Hargrave's not a run player. He's a pass rusher. He gave them a marginally better pass rush, but they the guys that had to be sacrificed to fit him into the cap made their run D a joke. I mean, think about it. Last year, they showed up in camp. They got gashed in the preseason. Then in the regular season, they blew teams out. Pittsburgh, they blew them out. They blew out Dallas. They blew out the Giants. Was their run D great? No. But their offense just took these teams out of running altogether. So we kind of got deluded into thinking they had a good run D. Oh, wait a second. They showed up in the playoffs, and then here comes Aaron Jones. He gutted them. And then Montgomery gutted them. They were only slightly better in the Super Bowl after guys like me shame them for having multiple guys jaking it in the NFC freaking title game. Then finally they had their come to Jesus moment. These guys started playing hard. So they were better in the Super Bowl, but their run D's a joke. Their run D's bad. Their run D has been propped up because Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are awesome against the run. So if you take Greenlaw away, now you got a dinged up Warner, and you gutted your run defenders to get Hargrave. Now Hargrave's done for the year. Guess what? You're really susceptible to the run. And
let me ask you guys this:
5-9 in the second half is just unacceptable. And I'll say this about Connor. Connor's a beast, man. This guy beat cancer. This guy is, he's never run fast. I mean, he was awesome at Pitt. Steelers took him in, I think, like the third round. He runs 4.6. He runs upright. He takes tons of hits, but he's got tons of heart. And he just ran through the Niners in the second half.
Listen to this stat. Listen to this stat. James Conner forced 9 missed tackles today, which is tied for the 4th most by any player in a game this season.
This is unbelievable. Wow. They couldn't bring him down. He run right up the middle and bounce off somebody and bounce off somebody else. But let me ask you guys this: through the first 5 games, who's a bigger loss to the team, Greenlaw or CMC?
I mean, CMC is a guy who helps you in the red zone. 18 of his 21 touchdowns came in the red zone. You can't take away a guy who scored 18 freaking times in the red zone and not have that negatively impact your red zone offense. So that's cause and effect. And I don't think anybody can tell me anything otherwise. But as far as Greenlaw is a tone setter. See, there's good players, there's great players, and then there's that next level. And that tone setting player is so unique, and he is that. He's fast and he's violent, and their defense lacks violence and intimidation and speed without him.
Lacks a personality without him, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he's the heart. He's the heart and soul of that thing. I mean, Fred's a big part of it as well, but Fred's not less than 100%. And going to Campbell, I mean, I just think Campbell he's trying hard. He made a couple of nice plays. There's no question. He's a veteran. He just lacks some speed.
Was Graham not activated?
I didn't see the who was up and who wasn't up. I don't think Graham was activated. I don't.
Yeah, gosh, I'd love to see him when they're more than Campbell. Campbell's slow out there. Just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, he didn't used to be slow, but he's been in the league a while.
Yeah, he can't cover. He doesn't cover guys. And
we got this one. CT Niner. Come on, Larry. Who are we firing after Thursday's loss to Seattle? God, the people in the chat are thirsting for blood, Rye. And they want us to give them somebody's head on a platter.
Could they be 2-5? If they lost,
yeah, because then they play the Chiefs. I'll say this: the silver lining, if this season doesn't end up working out, which I consider like not making the NFC Championship game is like you got to really reconsider things, because that's been the standard. I mean, it might be good for this team, to be honest, to like really have an off season and
get gutted.
Yeah, to rethink things, because if you're getting as close as they've been, like you have like a reasonable excuse. That literally, it's like if one thing goes their way, they could say that they would have won a Super Bowl, the past couple of years. And so it's tough if you're Shanahan and like you have a philosophy about how you run things. And it's like, you're finishing so close to number one every year. It's really hard to get to actually change things. But it's just, the defense has been the constant. And the defense has been so awesome. And it's like when you have an awesome defense, it really allows you to have slow starts on offense. Like when they had Jimmy G and like it was just like, shambolic. You didn't really know what you were going to get every week. That was okay because the defense was so good. But now it's like when you have holes on special teams and the offense or in the defense. Yeah. It's just you get me.
No, yeah. And like it's like this team now, it's a team where if the Niners don't play great offensively, they're not going to win. It's just not going to happen. They're not having a game where they, Brock Purdy does all right. They had a couple turnovers and they won because the defense held and they only scored 14. Like this defense has been giving up second half points like nobody's business really in these choked losses. I thought one thing that was really interesting was Fred Warner in the postgame, because I was watching the postgame press conference. Usually he's always positive, always stays positive. But he said, quote, defensively, we got to learn how to finish games. We're not there yet. And I feel like that's true. It's like this defense needs to figure out how they're going to close games, how they're going to stand up on these final drives and not allow points, because that was the difference when you're up 2 instead of up 3 without a kicker. You can't allow any points. And James Conner and Kyler Murray ran all over you.
Yeah, no question.
20,
And I'll say this also. It's not like, they are leaning heavily on the offense, but let's think about this and put this in perspective. This Arizona defense last week, Washington hung 42 on them and ran for 216 yards and 4 touchdowns on nearly 6 yards per carry. So, so Washington could score 42 on them last week, but the Niners can only score 23 at home against Arizona. That's something doesn't jive there.
Yeah. I think the team, when I look at it, this isn't, the San Francisco Giants that has no talent. This is still one of the top 3 talented teams in all of the NFL. So they just have to put it together. I think this team still, as you said, Rye, win the division. Maybe it's a 10-7, 11-6 type record, but if they can somehow just get into that, looks like maybe you want to shoot for the 3rd, probably going to end up with the 3rd seed. Then I don't think they're going to be able to finish with the 1 seed at this point, but you never know. But the talent's there. They just have to put everything together. They've had some injuries. I think on a positive note, it looks like Ayuk's finally back. He showed up today.
How much do you blame Shanahan for this offense? As I said, Washington scored 42 on Arizona last week. The Niners offense today scored 16 at home.
I really thought Brock was going to roll in there, throw for 303 touchdowns. Like I thought this was going to be like kind of a laugher of a game. I will say, not to make excuses, but Arizona is a divisional opponent. Gannon's a defensive guy, and the Niners flat out embarrassed them last year. I think Purdy was pretty much perfect in both of those games. So I'm sure they had this one circled, and they probably did spend a lot of the offseason kind of focusing on this stuff. But still, Arizona's one of those weird teams. They're just frisky enough that, they went into Buffalo and they hung with Buffalo, almost beat Buffalo. They had the Lions down for a bit. They beat the hell out of the Rams. They're frisky enough, but definitely, yeah. I don't know. How good is Washington? Is Washington really that good? I don't know.
They dominated against the Browns today.
I know.
It's unfortunate because Purdy probably played statistically one of his worst games. And it was the one game he was getting so much praise from Brady. It was like Brady was like, this he's got everything, and he was just dapping him up big time, talking about how when they came in and lost his first game, when Brady was facing him in his first start, he said, "Oh, we got this game. We're facing Mr. Irrelevant," and he had a lot of good things to say about Brock, and Brock just didn't have a great game. Wasn't he below 50% today in passing?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's cool. Look, it's kind of fun that they're pushing the ball down the field. They were like one of the only teams in the entire NFL that's doing it, other than like the Packers.
Brock made one really bad play in this game. I know there'll be people that will point to the turnovers, but he had one that was tipped. One that was tipped up. The other took a hit. To me, the big mistake that Purdy made in this game came on the Niners' 7th possession, third quarter. Arizona goes up. Ryland kicked the 42-yard field goal to make it a 10-point game. It's 23-13 49ers, right? Niners get it back, and they move the ball down the field. And on 2nd and 14 from the 18, Purdy takes a sack from Jones. He ran around and took a sack. And that kind of took them out of that got them so far behind. The next play was 3rd and 23. His pass was tipped, intended for Ayuk. Then that got to 4th and 23. And of course they had to go for it because Moody was already out at that point, and Purdy threw incomplete to Kittle. And the Niners didn't get any points there. But if you go back on that series, it was the 2nd and 14 play from the 18. First of all, there was a false start by Jennings. The previous play it was second. So Mason, runs a 1-yard run. It's 1st and 10 from the 14-yard line. Mason runs for 1 yard on first down. So the 2nd and 9, they're still sitting okay. Then Jennings gets the false start, mistake number 1. Then Purdy takes a terrible sack, and you look up, and suddenly you go from 1st and 10 on the 14 to 3rd and 23 on the 27. I mean, that was a huge turnaround right there.
Yeah, they couldn't go for the field goal either, like you said. The other thing that I thought was a mistake by Purdy that gets kind of overlooked, I'm not sure what drive it was on, but he had Jennings for a touchdown, and he threw it to the sideline. Had he thrown it more to the inside, Jennings had a couple steps on the guy, and with his height and the way he goes up for 50-50 balls, that was a touchdown. But he led Purdy he led Jennings out of bounds. The one catch down there right at the goal line. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brady made a point on that. He said, yeah, that ball's got to be thrown more inside. And
also, I will say he made a pretty good throw to Kittle on the fade to the end zone. Hit him in the hands. Could have had it. Still difficult play. He really, that was a pretty bad pass when he got it out to Kittle when they were on like the 6. He dumped it out to Kittle, and he just put it in a place where Kittle, to make the catch, it brought him out of bounds. And really, it was a pretty easy catch, and could have easily been a touchdown.
Yeah. He was just a little off today.
How would you jumpstart this thing if you're Shanahan? What do you do? Is there something that you can do before Thursday night? I mean, you're going to need a new kicker. Now that Seattle, we got to get a kicker. So now that Seattle lost, you get a desperate Seattle team at home. And if you lose, you're 0-3 in the division.
What happened in the Ravens game last year? How was Brock in that? Was he terrible in that game?
Terrible. 3 picks. And Mike McDonald, what they did, it was really interesting in that game last year, the Ravens game. You said, because, Kyle Van Noy claimed that the Ravens basically had the secret to beating Purdy. And Purdy did struggle for a number of games after that. And you could make an argument he wasn't quite the same the rest of the year. I mean, he still made some amazing plays and obviously won the NFC Championship game and all that. But, what it seemed like McDonald did last year is he took advantage of the fact that Shanahan likes to use those condensed, tight formations. And he basically dropped his defenders in the middle of the field, just like into a zone. And he brought pressure off the corner. And the corners were close to the quarterback because they're right there on the condensed formation. So he brought edge pressure, dropped extra guys into the middle, and then they've got great players in the middle. I mean, last year they had Stone, they had Hamilton, they had Queen, they had Roquan, they had all these guys in the middle of the field. And Hamilton made that big interception in the end zone on that first drive and kind of changed the tone all night. It just felt like Purdy, they knew that Brock wanted to throw those in-cutting routes to Ayuk, and they just decided to put a bunch of bodies there, and it worked out. So we'll see what I don't know if McDonald has like the secret sauce to beat Shanahan, or he's got the Purdy solution. Because the defense he's got now doesn't have near as much talent as that Ravens defense. But they did compete with Detroit last week, and they were down like 6 defenders. But then losing today to the Giants, I mean, that's going to be a pretty fired up and angry Seahawk team Thursday night. You can bank on that. Let's hit a couple of these starred chats. We got a bunch of people here who have donated cash here. Ryan Merdadian says Broncos defense is greater than the Niner defense. I've been saying that. They were good today, weren't they? For the Snowflakes says, can we get Purdy a Dr. Scholl's insert care package? Okay. B Cruising 302. Pay Purdy $60 million. That's a going rate. What are you going to, every time Purdy loses a game, the guy's 18-10 or something like that. Or what is he? No. In 25 games, he's 18-6. This was start number 26. 18 or no, is it? This was start number 20. This was start number 26. So I think he's 19-7, maybe 19-7. Still pretty good record. Mr. 33 Degrees says, if Moody can't play Thursday, do we sign a new kicker?
Oh, got to. They said that, I think, high ankle sprain.
High ankle sprain. He won't be ready. I know Dan Cochimilio once kicked. Danny, what do you got going Thursday?
He's silent.
He's silent. He muted himself.
I think I could do it with a torn labrum and all.
You got a torn labrum?
Yeah, yeah.
Too bad Farhan's gone. He'd be all over you. Coz SZG says, get rid of Kyle. Oh my God. He can't finish. Super Bowl as OC, couldn't finish. 2 Super Bowls as head coach with the lead, couldn't finish. This team is way too talented to be losing like this. Mistakes made today are a reflection of Kyle. It's always Kyle. Mark T. Engberg, what's the return policy on Mason's jugs machine? Mason's been catching the heck out of the football. But of course he fumbled today. You think he was upset the other day.
That fumble was wasn't
he's pissed.
It wasn't a real face mask. He didn't grab the face mask, but he hit the face mask.
Yeah, his head a little bit.
And when he hit it, you could see Mason kind of went like the ball just popped out right at that moment.
What's
up with Pittsburgh and Dallas right now?
There's like thunderstorms or something.
What's it, delayed?
Yeah, it's delayed.
Not playing right
started.
Now. Wow. Really? I'm watching the Dodgers Padres game.
Who do you guys like in that game tonight?
I like Pittsburgh.
I like Pittsburgh, but I especially like I don't know if there's an option to bet this on better, but I really love Jake Ferguson's over receptions.
There is.
We'll get to that in just a second.
The only thing I'll say is Dallas does have the rest advantage playing on Thursday Night Football, which seems like it always comes into play.
Except when the 49ers play the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are coming off a bye.
Mr. 33 Degrees says we had 0 points in the second half. How does that happen? Yeah, it's called interception, fumble, turnover on downs.
Interception.
Thanks for coming. Daza 0187 losses on Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, and the defense.
It's what's interesting, Larry, on those 2 interceptions, both of them were deflections from the D line, not bad passes.
Well, one was a deflection. I thought the other one, I didn't know if it was a deflection, but Purdy got hit, right?
No, that one, his arm,
got hit.
His elbow got hit.
That's right, got hit.
I mean, okay, that's another thing. Why does this seem to happen? Like, granted, they haven't been in that many of these situations where they're trying to come back with a game-winning drive. But I just feel like I watch Kirk Cousins, no matter what uniform he's in, Patrick Mahomes, all these guys, like somehow they are able to be protected in these situations. Like I don't ever see them get hit during these 2-minute drills or minute-and-a-half drills. Like why is there always a free rusher that hits Purdy?
Yeah, seriously. When the Niners have to throw, it seems
Mason
like they have a hard time pass protecting.
Oh, really?
Mason missed that on that blitz. The ball that got
For an
hit.
inside guy, yeah, he went for an
Mason did not get out there and.
Is that what it was? Fuji Simeon says when Purdy got safety blitzed, was that a blown assignment or just an extra rusher with an open path? I'd have to go watch it again.
From what I heard on the coverage, either Brady or whoever it was saying that Mason went for the inside guy because there was an inside rusher that Mason picked up. So I'm not sure if maybe he double teamed someone or if he was picking up a block and then they just had an extra rusher. I'm not sure.
The coach is in the house. He says, Larry, we both love JP Mason, but this game is exactly why I take Elijah over JP Mason. He wouldn't have fumbled on that drive or missed that crucial block for Brock Purdy today. Coach is right. Coach is right.
Coach is right, but also
like Mitchell over Mason. He likes him for the reliability factor.
That's fine, and I am totally with him there. But also, Elijah Mitchell can't play more than 30, 40 snaps without it getting injured. So it's just not an option.
Right.
Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell's got a small man's body and a big man's game. Doesn't work out.
He doesn't work out.
What's that? It doesn't work out typically when you have a small body and you have
doesn't never work out, right?
Yeah.
He never works out.
Breaking.
This just in. Kruger reports he doesn't work out. Dub B Tree says, there you go. There's a single. Thank you. I'll bring that with me to Cheetahs later. For the Snowflakes, after last year's tiff with Connor, the D should be ashamed. Was it last year that Afonga and Connor got into it a little bit after the game?
Yes, after the game.
We got this one from Perfect Blackness Senior. He says, no, that should not have been a fumble. Look at the replay. His forward progress had already stopped before the fumble.
I thought so too.
That's kind of what I thought too.
I know. I thought that, gosh, are you going to stop this? Because he
they never call that though.
Yeah.
We got this one from Heckdell. He says, team is paid and soft. It's a bad combination. Yeah, it is true. If you want to say what's the most overachieving team you've ever seen in sports, it was easily the 2001 or the 2021 San Francisco Giants. And what did they have that year? They had like 19 guys out of their 25 guys on their opening day roster whose contract was up at the end of the year. So, in pro sports, to have that carrot dangled, I really do kind of believe in this. When you pay guys, you take away their hunger. And there's an awful lot of guys who've been paid on this team. So are they really hungry? How hungry are they? It seems like guys, are guys living and dying with the losses, or are they pretty pleased with themselves based on what they're making and what their paycheck says and how they're individually doing?
This Niners team feels like one of those NBA teams where it's they're just going to be kind of trash during the regular season, but if they get in the playoffs, watch out. Something like I don't know, the Miami Heat or something. I mean, they're much more gritty than the 49ers, but still, it's you get Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, and all of a sudden it's different. That's how this kind of feels. I mean, it's
people were saying that about the Warriors beginning of last year, weren't they? Hey, wait, if this Warrior team makes the playoffs, watch out. So much for that. They get sent home by the Sacramento Kings. Suddenly light the beam and thanks for coming. Light the beam. Mark T. Engberg says, who is Steve Kerr to Kyle Shanahan's Mark Jackson? Just kidding. No, I'm not. Oh, no. Shanahan's losing fans. Mark K. says, what is going on with our DBs? Had a lot of plays today where there was confusion up until the snap. Even on the 2-point conversion, they looked lost. I kind of agree with that. It seems like there's some communication issues on this defense from time to time. And I think we've seen about 12 to 15 examples of that in the first 4 or 5 games. I mean, at least I've noticed it. I noticed it on that 2-point conversion. They didn't seem like they were ready to defend that at all. All Niners says, I'm sorry, Larry, but the press was way too easy on Kyle after that horrible performance. What do you want us to do? Go in there and start screaming at him. It's he was asked some difficult questions. I mean, I think more than anything, with football, you ask a few questions about injuries, you ask him general questions and let him talk about his team. Then we all go retreat to our separate corners, watch the film again, sharpen our points and our takeaways, and bring the real fastball in the day after. So I wouldn't, if it's a kumbaya party throughout the week, then I'm with you. But I don't think the post game is where you drop the bomb on Kyle. If
also, it's like, is there glaring offensive issues? I mean, you can pick at things, but is there anything offensively where you're like, oh, that's going to hold them back? Like, that's the problem. Like, if you look, I'm looking at all the drives here. Besides the first drive where they had a 3-and-out, they scored for the rest of the half. They scored on 4 consecutive drives. Then in the second half, you had an interception on a tip. The next drive, you have a turnover on downs because you can't kick a field goal. So that should have been points. The next drive, you get inside the 10 and Mason fumbles. And then the next drive
Kyle's fault for the fumble.
And the next drive, you have an interception on a free rusher blitz. So you're talking about one drive where the offense stalled out. Every other drive was either they should have scored points because they didn't have a kicker, or there was a turnover. And both of those turnovers, you can't really blame Purdy because he's either getting the ball tipped or he's getting hit. And Mason's fumbling on the inside the 10. I can't really point the finger at the offense and be like, this is the problem. They didn't score as many points as they should have, but it's not like
I don't know. Kev, look at last week. Washington scored 42. The Niners offense put up 16 and they got shut out in the second half.
I think if you really want to blame, where you want to blame Kyle, I don't blame him for, you can't blame him for the turnovers. It's not his fault. Players got to go out there and execute. But where you really can blame Kyle, in my opinion, is in the draft. I mean, you're picking a receiver. Number one, he's going to be the 4th receiver, even if he didn't have the tragic situation. You don't really even play 3 wides usually because you got the fullback. Why didn't you draft an offensive lineman?
Yeah, or defensive lineman.
Yeah, or defensive. Yeah, I mean, you don't need a wide receiver right now. If you did, then you should have traded Ayuk.
Even if you thought Ricky Pearsall was really good, okay, and maybe he is, right? Lynch has talked glowingly about him. Realistically, how many targets is Ricky Pearsall going to get what's the most number of targets you could see him getting in a game in the next 6 weeks?
I think about maximum of 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4, maybe.
Yeah,
it does. I mean, we've tried to. I think we've had this conversation sort of, but it's there's never really been a definitive answer. Like I really would appreciate a media story where this is actually asked of Kyle and John. What was your thinking behind this? Because you already had Juwan Jennings, so was he supposed to be? And you have Debo locked up. Sure, maybe you don't have Ayuk, but
you also drafted Cowling. You drafted Cowling, who's gotten no reps, right?
It's just you wanted to draft a receiver to be the 3rd or 4th option at best.
Yeah, it makes no sense to be the 4th option.
And look at all their defensive picks. You have Renardo Green, who's playing meaningful snaps. You have Malik Mustafa, who's playing meaningful snaps. You have Tatum Bethune, who's 1 injury away from being on the field consistently. I mean, that's all their defensive guys, right? Who else do they draft?
Mustafa, Green.
Their defensive line is super thin. I mean, it's just they overdrafted on the offensive side, definitely in the wide receiver room.
There was still corners to be had, right? I mean,
plus wide receivers, unless they're a, Jamar Chase type or Malik Neighbors, you're not that late. You can find guys like that in the 2nd, 3rd round.
Well, I mean, we'll see how Pearsall does, and I think he'll probably be pretty good. But you know what? Wide receivers the receivers have to complement the other receivers in the room. People will say, "Well, was this a good pick? Is that a good pick?" Well, it depends who the other receivers are. If you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and all these sub 4.4 guys, then yeah, you probably want a chain moving big receiver who can catch the ball. But if you got nothing but guys who run through you, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, and all these JJ, nobody runs away and everybody runs through, then guess what? You probably need a burner. You need a vertical threat. You need a space creator. I would have preferred on this team. I think the better fit would have been Xavier Leggett, who's 6'3", 230, and has 4.3 speed. That guy creates space and big playability. Now we'll see. I mean, he's not the receiver that Pearsall is, but Pearsall's not the athlete that Leggett is. I just think that Pearsall to me seems redundant, but we'll see how it shakes out.
To Ryan's point, it's like, was this game, or were we one receiver away from winning this game? Like, no. That's like one of the, that was like the last.
You need to protect. You need to protect Purdy is what you need to do.
Yeah,
they're too light.
If you're thinking about how do you win this game, what personnel do you need to add to this team to be a better team today? There's a lot of places I'd point on the defense before I'd point at, oh, we need a fifth wide receiver.
Well, there was talk this week about Devontae and Tyreek, and it's like, that's stupid. That is dumb talk. You have Cowie, he doesn't play. You have Pearsall, he doesn't get on the field. You have Terrace Marshall, he runs in the 4.3s. He's healthy, he's ready to contribute. He can't even get active. But at the same time, you're thin on your defensive line. You've just put Yatir Gross-Matos on season-ending IR. God knows where you'd be without Sam Aquinu. It's just they're really thin. And they probably should have taken another shot on the defensive line, either a tackle or end, or, instead they went with a receiver and then they brought back Ayuk. So it's like, it's one thing if you went the receiver so you could move off of Ayuk, but they went for the receiver and then they kept Ayuk. And now they've got so many guys, they probably don't even, they won't even be able to have these guys up and active on game day.
When I was playing in high school and the first 1 year of college, the coaches always emphasized, we win the game in the trenches, guys. We win the game in the trenches. That's where the game's won, And you look at Kansas City. They're great on defensive line with Jones anchoring the defensive line. They beefed up their offensive line last year, and they still have weapons. Yeah, the Niners have more weapons than anybody, but they don't have guys to go at the trenches. They don't win in the trenches, and that's how you win championships.
Yeah, and how you don't win championships is to just bring in guys, just bring in expensive free agents that the Eagles let go.
Well, and here's the other thing too. It's like they've made some bad decisions and then compiled those bad decisions by then protecting those bad decisions. Like Oliver was a bad decision. And then anybody could have seen that in camp that Jameson could cover and Oliver couldn't. But they cut Jameson, they kept Oliver. Why? Because they wanted to protect, whoever invested Jed's money from criticism. Well, here we are this year, and it's like you signed Devondre Campbell, but you wound up cutting Jalen Graham. D. Winters probably should be playing. Both those guys move a whole lot better than Graham. They're going to keep putting Graham out there because they signed Graham as a free agent. So I like Renardo Green over Yadam. I really do. Now, Yadam made a couple plays today, but I still think Green's a better cover guy. And yet Yadam was signed as a free agent. And, if you play Green, it's like, hey, did you waste Jed's money? And then there's I think there's something to that, that they don't want to be in that position. Thank you. Dale says, was the D this bad when Saleh and D'Amico started? I know D'Amico struggled a little bit initially. I think the talent is not as good now. I think they're better in the secondary. They're not as good up front. They really miss Greenlaw. I mean, they took away Greenlaw, who's an all-pro type player, whether he got the designation or not. We all know he's an all-pro type player, and they replaced him with Devondre Campbell, who's like a replacement-like player. So, that's a major step back. Dub B. Trey says, was that James Conner or Jim Brown out there? We've got Heck Dell says, Purdy discount after today. Everybody's worried about what Purdy's going to make.
Who was the linebacker they had signed, and he was from Minnesota? Then he went signed with Dallas.
Yeah, Eric Kendricks.
Would he have been better than Campbell?
Probably, but another older player.
Yeah, another older guy. Yeah.
Daza 0187 says, I watched the second half of the Ravens Bengals game. Brock Purdy doesn't look anything like either of those two. not worth 60 million.
I will
don't
say
know.
I'm not here to disparage Brock by any means, and this has nothing to do
come
with
on.
Brock. But Ryan's point earlier in the show about, it seems like, Mahomes and the better quarterbacks, they don't take sacks. They don't have free rushers running at them. Lamar Jackson took over that game in overtime. I mean, whatever you're paying that guy, it's worth it. He stiff-armed a defensive lineman and then threw a touchdown to Isaiah Likely across his body. I mean, shit like that is just like, you can't pay that guy enough money. He's winning games for you.
Keith Murphy from the Unbeaten says offense didn't score 23. They scored 17, blocked field goal. Yeah, no, you're right, Keith. You're right. Frank Banks says here's $1.99. Just saying, hey, I'm Frank Banks, damn it. RJ in the house says first the Rams, now the Cards. What do these second half collapses say about this team? I mean, how many times can a Kyle Shanahan coach team blow a 10-point lead in the second half?
Well, okay, what was that stat? There was some graphic they put up that Kyle had never blown a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, ever.
To start the fourth quarter? I've seen a few recently. I thought they...
But didn't they do that in the playoffs? To the Chiefs? It was 0 and 38. Okay, I'll find it.
He's done it as a coordinator, right? I mean, I thought, wasn't that the fourth quarter?
Because I've seen people tweet oh God, not another 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. People tweet that. But then I saw this graphic. Yeah, it says 49ers under Kyle Shanahan, 38-0 when leading by 10+ points entering fourth quarter, led 23-13 today. Oh, not counting Super Bowl, just regular season. All right. Okay. Well, egg on my face.
Well, 38-1.
We got this one from Perfect Blackness Senior. He says, hey, Krug, do you and the rest of the locals now have the balls to hold Kyle accountable, or do you guys need to come here to Chicago to gain nuts to call out poor genius head coach performances? Turnovers, man. Turnovers.
Grow some gonads, Larry. Come on.
Is he a Chicago Bears fan? Because I just
they won big today. The Bears won big.
They did, but could you imagine how Bears fans may actually kill someone if it meant that Kyle Shanahan was the coach?
Yeah, seriously, they wouldn't know what to do. Daza 0187, wins are not a quarterback stat. All right, we can debate that forever. Frank Banks says, please explain how Kyle's a genius and he thinks he doesn't need to use play action or tempo like every other good offensive play caller in the league. Was there one play action snap? Oh, there definitely was.
I would be yelling Sorensen's name a lot more after this game than Kyle's. There's a lot of Kyle's in this. I would just say there's not
Sorensen's
a lot
defense was no showed at the end, no doubt.
Yeah,
was that what you're going to say?
Well, I was going to say there's it's few and far between to find what Kyle Shanahan specifically did wrong in this game. If you want to say, oh, the play calling on when he was first and goal or second and goal, and they
got a little conservative.
There was a few instances where you could say that, but it's okay, they turned the ball over. He threw interceptions. That was the difference in the second half. Is that Kyle's fault? Can you say Kyle because Purdy threw an interception? I don't know.
Here's the thing. I mean, once again, 26 starts for Purdy. I think he's now 19-6.
I think better.
And 49er offense since he took over, since Kyle and Purdy have been, wed together back in 2022, the 49er offense is averaging 30 points a game.
Brock Purdy is 26-9.
You can sit there and bitch and complain about Shanahan all you want. And I'm not saying that
26-9
that he doesn't have faults. They're scoring 30 a game.
Yeah,
they're scoring 30 a game. They didn't score 30 a game today, but they have averaged 30 a game since Kyle's had Brock.
I think maybe the biggest problem with Sorensen today was the dude was wearing a sweatshirt.
Was he?
Was he actually?
Yeah, he's wearing a sweatshirt out there.
Maniac.
With a hoodie. I'm like, it's 95 degrees.
Fire him now, honestly. That's terrible.
That's actually bizarre.
That is if he was wearing a sweatshirt with a hoodie, that's worthy of a question. Excuse me, Nick.
Yeah, that's just weird. I mean,
that's really weird.
Are you sweating away some pounds? What are you doing? You got a wrestling meet coming up?
What is he hiding under that?
It's just coming out there in a garbage bag.
Yeah, what's
pretty weird looking, man. I was like,
that might be a Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll. What's your deal, bro?
He has like a birthmark on his left forearm. He doesn't want to show.
Yeah, seriously. Come on Friday says screen game. Where did it go? Yeah, we don't see a lot of those. TJ Green just says here. There you go. You
Couple
take
of
my
those
What
money.
tonight.
happened to the screenplay in football? I mean, they were putting pressure on him. That's a perfect recipe for a screen, especially when you can't.
Negate a
you
little
got-
rush.
Yeah, you
Well,
got
where was Debo?
Mason or Debo
God,
And-
yeah,
and
seriously,
those guys
Tebow
could-
was a non-factor.
bowl over people. Wow. Even a tight end screen. You see Kansas City run that a lot, just a
Yeah.
little.
Oh, Kansas City doesn't pass the ball more than 3 yards down the field.
They're looking for a receiver too. Matthew Rowley says, "What have you seen from this pathetic team to say they are a top 3 team in talent? They were good. They got old and hurt. They were
got
good. They got old
names.
and hurt."
They've got names, is what they've got.
Okay, tell me. Okay. If you don't think they're a top 3 team, give me 3 teams that are more talented.
Oh, for me,
Yeah, in the NFL.
oh, if we're talking, I mean, the Chiefs are more talented. I think the Lions are more talented.
Green Bay.
I mean, see, my dumb brain. I'm not like you, where I know all the low key players. Like my dumb brain is players that I know, and so it makes me think.
No, but
the
I think
Niners
those are
top
right. I think
3, but
I think the Niners. I would say the way to say it, and the way I would say it is, the Niners are a top 5 roster,
Yeah.
talent wise.
yeah,
We can debate: are they 2? Are they 3? Are they 4? Are they 5? Who knows? But they're top 5. They're a top 5
Probably
roster.
top 3, honestly, for sure.
I think I agree with Kev. I think that might be even a little bit conservative.
That's why I don't.
Probably
That's
top
why I
3.
don't get all too worried about it. I think they'll figure it out. They're gonna, they're gonna win the division. I still believe. I still think 11 wins is reasonable. And I mean, what are they? 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
They'd have to go what, 9 and 3 the rest of the way to finish 11 and 6. I mean, this team's rattled off 9, 10 in a row in the past.
yeah,
but
that's.
but they
typically
are
what
lacking.
do.
They are lacking.
The way you just threw out those math skills, I think there's an HOA treasurer's job in your future. I mean, seriously, you're going to be the treasurer at your
hope
HOA.
I know
there,
numbers.
Dan.
I hope I do
Well,
okay with numbers.
When's the
We're
bye
going to have
week?
an assessment about the roofing tiles. These are perfect.
yeah.
They reflect light, and it's actually it will help us live longer.
49ers have a bye in
Too
week
bad you don't
9.
have that clip still, huh?
No, I
Week
know. I
9.
wish I
So
had
3
that.
more
Oh.
games and then a bye week.
Okay, I kind of like that. I could see. So that's when the run comes. If they can just survive this little stretch of at Seattle, which they'll win, and then honestly go 1-1 in Kansas City and Dallas. Just go 2-1 into the bye, and then maybe you get CMC back. You hit the bye week, and then you come out and you just start.
So if they go
going
2-1,
off.
then they'd be coming out of the bye 3-3.
I looked at
That's reasonable.
these 2 NFC West games as you had to get one. You had to go 1-1. Now you've lost the first one. Now that makes, I think
You
it
mean
makes
4 and 4, Kev?
I think it makes Thursday night must win. Must win.
Yeah, sorry, 4-4. Bad math.
Is it? But Larry, is it a must
Danny with the
win,
math
or is
again.
it a can? Is it a can't lose?
Can be some combination thereof. Juan Mendoza says too many arm tackles. John Kalua says it feels like Kyle is shifting to more drop back passing, and this line is not built for it. Kyle's second half collapses are becoming stuff of legend.
I
Seems
do agree
pretty
with that.
consistent.
Like
Pretty
there's
consistent.
the line's not built for that. It is weird seeing the entire league start doing the Shanahan-y type stuff. You're seeing nobody throw the ball down the field. People are just running screen games, running the ball. And then all of a sudden Shanahan, there has been a lot less play action. It's a lot of shotgun.
Why do you
And
think that is, though? See, I think what's happening is I think the Eagles stopped honoring the play action, play fakes in that NFC Championship game, and I think teams have copied that at time. Hey, we'll play the run on the way to the quarterback, but we're not going to honor these play fakes. And then Shanahan's looking at it. Well, if they're not going to honor the play fakes, then we're really just giving them an extra second to hunt our quarterback if we're going to keep carrying out these play fakes that they're not honoring. I don't know. I'd love to know why they have fewer play action passes than they have in the past.
Brady was even talking about it. You're normally used to the 49ers, their deep plays are usually the play action boots. But this time around, like they're kind of just pushing it down the field, and like it makes sense. Purdy has more turnovers, lower completion percentage. Like they're kind of bucking the entire trend of the league. Which,
that was my takeaway in like the first
Kyle,
quarter. Like
Kyle
the
the
first half.
innovator, always ahead of everybody, right?
They were hucking the ball down the field in that first quarter, like going deep. I mean, that first 3 and out, it was 2 deep balls. Like,
and it's interesting. Green Bay actually is kind of doing a similar thing, like watching Jordan Love, and Jordan Love makes some dumbass plays, very dumb plays. But I mean, they throw the ball down the field, and it's interesting because you're like, well, you looked so good with Malik Willis when you just built an entire game plan out of just running the ball. And then I feel like everyone assumed like, well, then Jordan Love's going to be plugged into that and they're going to look so incredible, but it's just not the case. They're just trying to push the ball down the field as well.
For the Snowflakes says Purdy needs Dr. Scholl's endorsement, not more trucks. TJ Green says Purdy looks indecisive, holds the ball too long. I agree with that. He seems like he's in a weird mode now in the red zone where I feel like he's holding the ball, trying to make something happen, and then sometimes not being aggressive enough and not just letting it go and really letting it rip. I think he's shouldering more of a load, and so he doesn't want to turn it over, but I think it's made him cautious in the red zone and maybe a tick slow in his processing. And there are times when he sees things open, and I'm watching on the binoculars, and he's just a little bit late. I think he would do better with a play call where there was like an anticipatory read there, kind of like what he had in that first touchdown to Jennings last week, where he looked over at Ayuk and he kind of drew the safety to the left and then threw it to a wide open Jennings. I haven't seen them really execute a play call that shows an ability to create some space in the red zone. It seems like he's just waiting for guys to pop open and then throwing it, but it's too late because it's just everything happens so fast in the condensed space. So that's what I see. I see a guy who looks like he doesn't want to turn it over. And he doesn't want to throw the 50-50 ball, and they're not getting a lot of separation. I think all these things are factors. I really do.
Yeah. When does the PFF grade come out on the offensive line? When does that come out? Tuesday?
It's probably out, right? I think they do it pretty instantly these days.
I'd be curious to see how they fared today. Some of the offensive.
By the way, I asked Kyle after the game. I said, will there be any practice this week?" And he's like, "No, it's all going to be walkthrough. They're not going to practice at all this week." Rakumi says, "For the fan base called the faithful, these guys cry a lot. The sky isn't falling, and the answer isn't to fire Shanahan over a month of meh football. There's things to fix, though, and we need McCaffrey in the red zone." Yeah, I think Rukumi is got a sound take there. I really believe that. MB Elias says, or MBA Elias, 1-7 in the red zone today. This is a Purdy problem or a Shanahan problem. Red zone play this year is a disaster. Well, I just told you what I see there from Purdy. I think he is holding it a little too long. And, I think some of the play calls, it's like, hey, find somebody. And it's just not the reaction time and, his ability to process. It just hasn't come together. And then I think not having McCaffrey is definitely hurt. I mean, come on. He scored 18 red zone touchdowns last year. You don't think that he's a major part of the red zone offense? I mean, he is. All Niners.
How much of that, though, is with Purdy holding the ball longer? Is it wide receivers not getting enough separation? You saw him get shut down.
Could be that maybe they're not executing. Maybe they're maybe they're freelancing a little bit. You saw Purdy not throw a ball to Ayuk the other day because he didn't know that Ayuk was going to be there. So it's not necessarily are you open. It's also about are you where you're supposed to be and where the quarterback thinks you're going to be. And if you go free form and freelance off of it, he might be able to pivot and get it to you, but he might not. I just see a guy that looks like he's waiting for somebody to flash open. And when guys flash open, here comes the ball, but then the window closes so fast that it becomes either contested or it's incomplete.
I don't think Debo. I mean, we talk a lot about Ayuk, but I don't think Debo has really been getting a lot of separation. Like if you see him run a slant route, he's just absolutely blanketed. In that Minnesota Viking game where he had like 10 catches or 9 catches, every single one of his catches was like this crazy catch where the defender's on him with his hands and he just like plucks it and like pulls it in. And like it's like he had 0 yards of separation on average in that game. Like,
well, until
just being blanketed.
today, Ayuk finally got open today, but before today, the only receiver getting open was Jennings.
And he's your slowest.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be, you'd have to rewatch the game to see exactly what's going on. But they showed you didn't see this, Dad, but they showed like a highlight reel of Brock Purdy's pressures. And if you watched it, it's not like a pressure where it's like, oh, instant pressure. It was like he's holding it 1 second, he's holding it 2 seconds. Oh, then the pressure comes. It's like it was all these pressures where it's like he's holding the ball long. So it's like the pressures that were on Purdy were almost self-inflicted. So I'm not sure what's going on.
I almost think, though, Kevin, watching Purdy previously, he usually goes through his reads, his progressions pretty quickly and fires to the first guy generally open. I think he's holding it longer because I don't think guys are getting open.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right.
I think you're definitely right. All Niners says, Larry, honest question. What needs to happen for you to stop defending Kyle and Brock after a poor performance? I hope it doesn't come across like I'm defending them. I mean, they've got to answer for the good and the bad. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say it. I mean, Arizona gave up 42 to Washington's offense last week. Kyle's offense this week in perfect weather conditions as far as sunshine. The offense had 16 points and got shut out at home on their home field in the second half. So, it's turnovers. Brock's got to take responsibility. Mason's got to take responsibility. Shanahan's got to take responsibility. I'm just not going to get to the fatalistic, like Brock's not the guy, because it immediately goes there. It immediately goes to, if you want to express frustration with Shanahan, that's fine. If you want to use that frustration to say that they need to fire his ass, then I'm moving on because I don't agree with that. I don't think firing Kyle Shanahan's the answer, and I don't think moving on from Brock Purdy's the answer. And yet they both need to accept blame for their shortcomings. And there's no reason that should be any different than anybody else. So if it feels like I'm carrying water for them, I'm not. I'm just not overtly negative, and I appreciate. I've worked in pro football. Okay. So I know how hard it is and I know how much goes into it. And, the bottom line is when you've sat and worked 120-hour weeks, like I have, putting together game plans, and then you do what I do now, which is grind like crazy, but I'm still a media person. It's like, I'm always going to show Kyle and Brock and the coaching staff a little bit more respect probably than other content creators, simply because I know what it means to work 120 hours at something. And I know what it's like to be questioned by somebody who put in, 5 hours or 3 hours or 2 hours. And it's like, you want to have questions, that's fine. But I think those questions should be asked in more of a fact-finding tone and less of an accusatory tone. It's just a total insult to the process of pro football. So I watched the game. I watched the All-22 and I'm watching the condensed version and I'll study all the stats and look at all the numbers. I think like I know something, but I also know the difference between when I really knew, because I watched it and spent hours and hours and hours. So that's my long-worded way of saying criticize all you want. And if I want to criticize, I will, but I'm also going to defend those guys at time because I think Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in pro football. I'm going to defend Kyle Shanahan because I think Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in pro football. Okay. We got Fuji Simeon who says, what can the team and Forster do to fix the O-line problems? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, at different times, Brendel had a bad penalty today. Banks has struggled at times. Trent has struggled at times. Colton has struggled early in the year. Pooney's had a couple down games, so it's, I don't know if there's a solution like lineup wise to make them. Do you guys see a move that you want to see on that offensive line?
I wouldn't mind trading for if any offensive lineman becomes available. I'm down to trade, especially interior. I'm just like I'm afraid. Like, what is going to happen if Trent Williams gets banged up?
Yeah.
Or like, what happens next year if Trent Williams retires? Like, what happens? There's no backup plan. Was McKivitz going to play left tackle?
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. I mean, they got to take some shots. I mean, they found a plug and play starter at right guard in Dominic Pooney in the 3rd round. So, don't have this like, hey, if we can't get into the top half of the 1st round, there's no offensive lineman out there that can help us. Scout the thing, see if you can find some offensive linemen that can plug in. I mean, the nice thing about an offensive line, it's kind of like an NBA team. I mean, there's only 5 guys, right? So if you can change out even one guy and add a good player there, you can improve your team. If you can trade out one of your 5 offensive linemen like they did with Pooney. I mean, last year they averaged 4.1 a carry running to the right. This year they're 5.7 a carry running to the right coming into today. That's all Pooney. So you can't quit on it. You got to keep drafting offensive linemen if you want.
The only thing about
that's
their strategy with offensive linemen, which they've explicitly stated, is to go for them in later rounds or not use high picks on them. And it's like there is benefits to that because you can definitely find really, really good centers and guards. But how often do you find a late round tackle? I feel like those guys are a little bit more of the like
1 and 2 rounds.
You need like a top 15 pick. You need a cream of
25
the crop
for sure,
because it takes this like extreme athleticism and size to be good at tackle, and it's like you can kind of see that. You can like Tyler.
That's why that Eagles, Howie Roseman getting Jordan Mailata, that was a phenomenal pickup. I mean, this guy has emerged as one of the great dominant physical offensive linemen in the game. And what are they got him undrafted or late?
But it's like the clock's ticking on Trent Williams, and Colt McKivitz is a kind of a question mark. When are the Niners going to make a move in that category? Yeah,
I mean, it's true. Kyle inherited Joe Staley and McGlinchey, I guess. And
no, they drafted.
They drafted McGlinchey.
Yeah,
okay. Well, they inherited. Well, I mean, McGlinchey wasn't that great anyway, but they inherited Staley, and then they got, I would say, pretty lucky that they were able to pull that trade off for Trent Williams.
Very lucky.
I think it's definitely some hubris by Kyle. I mean, I was just to make myself, every once in a while, I like to make myself feel bad. So yesterday, actually, I pulled up the 2021 draft because I was just thinking, how crazy is it that not Trevor Lawrence kind of looking kind of ass and you would not want to be paying him. And then, of course, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, but then also Kyle Pitts kind of being a bust. So those first 4 picks, if you just start after those first 4 picks, it's Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, Justin Fields, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker. That is insane. That is insane.
They probably should have gone with Sewell or Slater.
Yeah.
Right? Those tackles would have been nice. Matthew Rowley says, are there issues on offense? You mean besides the fact they can't score in the red zone? But that is normal for a Kyle Shanahan offense, except last year because of CMC. Actually, the Niners, I think, were number 1 in the NFL in 2 of the last 3 years, I believe, in the red zone. Yeah. John Muniz says, since when do we becoming a drop back passing team? No play action in game. Kyle's dead set on proving Brock's worth. We could ask him about that this week, about the play action game. Anthony Catania. Anthony, good to see you. He says, ugly. This offense should be putting up 30 points a game with ease. Can't disagree. Ted Breezy's in the house. He said, this offense sucks in the red zone. This D can't stop the run. Wilkes was made the scapegoat. Brock's playing too much hero ball. Give me Cliff Kingsbury as the new head coach.
Oh, please no.
Wow. Loco Ant 1624. You are what your record is. Tone is set with Kyle. Underachieving and overrated offensive genius. No accountability and still can't make adjustments.
Okay, by the way, would you trade a first-round pick, or how many first-round picks would you trade for Brandon Aubrey?
Jesus.
Have a money kicker who can kick from 60.
55-yarder in the rain. not like ease.
Is that game started now?
Yeah, it just started.
Danny D says this is on Kyle. Jim Harbaugh would have controlled the momentum and clock through the run game and pass when we needed pass attempts from the 2-yard line. I hate the Harbaugh conversation, but yeah, that's always going to come up. Jid Scan Music. Did you predict any in-season moves this year?
Do you?
Oh, do you? I do. I definitely think they'll make an in-season move. I could see D-line. Azeez Ojulari from the New York Giants, DJ Jones of the Denver Broncos. I think both those guys would make sense. I think D-line is where you're going to see them add. For the Snowflakes, will the Niners have a better winning percentage than the Giants? Danny, what was the Giants' winning percentage?
Is he talking
Yes,
New
the
York
Niners are gonna
Giants?
go-
Is he talking New York Giants?
No,
or
he's
San
talking about
Francisco?
San Francisco Giants.
Oh, definitely. They were under 500. 49ers are winning at least 9.
John Muniz says, do you guys think Super Bowl window closed? I feel playoffs will be a big stretch to get in now. I don't. I don't think
You have a
Super Bowl window's
quarterback.
closed.
You have a quarterback. That's what keeps your window open.
Yeah. I just don't. There's too much talent here for this thing to be closed. Also, I don't see a monster team in the NFC.
I mean, if their defense was competent in the second half, they should easily be 4-1 right now.
Yeah.
And their only loss being to a 5-0 Minnesota Vikings team.
Look, if they
Greg,
beat the Seahawks and the Chiefs, like we are all going to be like Super Bowl season.
No, seriously. Greg, our JC says Kyle is
Exactly.
garbage. Mitch could have kicked a 35-yard field goal. Instead, he goes for it on 4th and 23. Hit the 3 points. Niners win by 2. Kyle is a loser. So there you go.
Probably not, honestly. A 35-yarder is not a
I
gimme
don't think
for
so.
him.
I don't think
Yeah,
Mitch would have made that.
Unless it was the Cal kid in those vans.
That's true. Perfect Blackness Senior says, no, I am not a Bears fan. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean the offense. I was lashing out a little
He
bit.
took a lot of offense to that.
He did. He had to dig into his pocket for another 2 spot to give us that one. Heck Dell says, why is Ronnie Bell still out there? Bad coaching. Yeah, I don't like this justification of some mediocre pick. God, that drives me crazy. Belichick 2025 says, Kev O was 1 for 6 in the red zone. He got away from play action boot plays from last year. This team is not a spread gun offense.
They scored
JD's
They scored a field goal on every single drive in the red zone or a touchdown, and then they fumbled once.
Let's just finish the supers, then we'll get JD's thoughts. Omar Rio Pedre says 49ers should look at signing that former kicker from the Bills that had allegations against him unless he signed to someone. Isn't he talking about Ariza? He's talking about Matt Ariza, the punter.
I think he plays for someone.
Yeah, he does. He's with Kansas City. For the Snowflakes,
I'm sorry. Can we just why does Kansas City they're just allowed to just get anybody with a terrible character issue? It's just Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill. I mean, even Butker's annoying. Rashee Rice, like it's crazy.
For the Snowflakes, should the Niners beg back Robbie Gould? Yeah, why not? That'd be great. I'd be fired up for that. Jid Scan Music. I got us going 4 and 5 before we wake up. Oh no.
I don't know if I want Robbie Gould back. You get it to the 35, you're not even in field goal range.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't kicked in what? This would be 2 years out?
Well, I know. It's been a while.
Who are the free agent kickers? Let me look it up.
Look it up.
There's
Nicholas Parra says this fan base is restless. Niners keep losing games they should win, and it's becoming old and has followed Kyle since his Atlanta offensive coordinator days. I think that's accurate. I think the fan base is getting restless. That might be the question tomorrow. Maybe I'll ask that tomorrow night. Are you getting restless, fan base? What do you guys think? Do you think the fan base is getting restless? You guys see the comments.
Oh, they're getting
like Ryan said, they come back and they beat Seattle and then beat the Chiefs. Everything's like this team's going all the way.
Matthew Rowley says at Seattle, which they will win. It's insane. What the F are you guys talking about? How dare you consider any game as a guarantee after what we've seen thus far? Oh, it's true. You can't say, oh yeah, they'll win Thursday in Seattle. It's like, it's not hardly.
I'll make a guarantee on it. I mean, I won't quite do what that one college football guy did with the cheesy 5-layer burrito. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh God, some guy, I forget what school it was, but he was like, oh, I think it was Kansas State. It was like, if Kansas State loses to some school, like I'll put a beefy 5-layer burrito up my butt. And he actually posted it.
Oh,
So
Jesus, that's bad.
yeah. Yeah.
God.
It's supposed to be a one-way thing going the other way. Frank Banks said, you guys didn't address my question. Let's get the stats on Kyle's non-use of play action and tempo. He's running spread with slow receivers. Angel Martinez says, hey, $1.99. I'm Angel Martinez. Thank you, Angel. West Bay Niner talk. I get CMC red zone thing hurts the Niners, but CMC won't be here forever. As smart as Kyle is, he needs to figure this out ASAP. He makes it seem like there's no common denominators of the red zone struggles. It's all happenstance, but obviously it's directly related to CMC to some degree. Greg RJZ says Mitch kicked 50-yarders in practice. Kyle's not a gamer.
I don't know if that's true.
LCRTS says, like I said last week, last year was their year to win it. When they were healthy, time for a top 10 pick, O-line preferably.
Wow.
And heck, they're not getting a top 10 pick. Heck Dell says, where is Terrace Marshall? Ronnie Bell still playing? Terrace Marshall's in the locker room. I talked to him Friday. Frank Banks says, by the way, I love Brock. I think Kyle's an exceptional play designer and a mid-play caller. He needs to be held accountable, and I think he needs a good OC like Andy Reid always has. And then Angel Martinez, I'm seeing Kyle struggle with the rule changes for motion wide receivers. Could motion and run with a head start to get open. A couple last ones before we go to JD here. Fuji Simeon Gold is the head coach at Jimmy G's high school. Oh, there you go, in Oak Lawn, Illinois. Seymour Duckett says this team has played a lot of extra football the last 3 years, paid and old. They had their opportunities. Who knows how it will play out? But better NFC teams now. There are better NFC teams now. I don't know who's definitely better in the NFC in your guys' thoughts.
Detroit.
Okay.
No, I can't say anyone's definitely better.
I
there's just a
I
tier
wouldn't
of
agree
teams.
with that, but I mean, I listened to that.
I think right now, but I think if the Niners
Minnesota?
if the Niners get healthy and they are at full speed, and they meet up in the playoffs, doesn't matter where they play, they could beat anybody.
There's no team in the NFC where if they lose in the playoffs, let's say that people would be like, well, they just have a better team. Like the Niners, I think, match up and should beat any team that they face.
John Muniz says, tell Jed to write blank check to Belichick ASAP. Oh yeah, everybody's out there looking for Belichick. I've heard the Eagle fans demand him. Come on Friday, says fan base has become spoiled the last 5 years. The NFL isn't easy. Xavier says red zone offensive struggles, Kyle Shanahan or Brock Purdy?
Wide receivers.
Kevin Kruger posts more Brock Purdy stats. Yeah, people
Someone
telling
actually
you
say that? Did someone actually say that?
Xavier. He says KK post more Brock Purdy stats. I'm sure you're KK. What do you guys think of that one though? Xavier says red zone offensive struggles. Is it Kyle? Is it more on Kyle, more on Brock, or are you here to blame somebody else? Why don't we welcome in JD, who has been doing bang up work? And if you look at JD and you say, God, that man's tan. This is a man that's been in Hawaii. He's very, very tan. JD, what do you think? Answer Xavier here. Is the red zone offensive struggles that the Niners are enduring this year, would you put that at the feet? Would you hold Kyle Shanahan's feet to the fire on that? Is it Brock Purdy? Purdy tried to take blame for it in the post game, but a lot of that's just trying to assert yourself as the leader. What is your read on their struggles in the red zone?
I think it's got to be. I mean, it's a collective, but I think it's more on Kyle Shanahan, to be honest, than it is on Brock Purdy. But I think play calling and play design in the red zone has been an issue. I mean, I look at the game's 10-10 in the first half, and I think this is one of the pivot points. It's 3rd and goal at the 1, and they get in the shotgun and they throw on 3rd and goal on the 1. It's a tie game. You're playing the Cardinal. Like, to me, that is
didn't like that sequence at all.
Run the ball
with a bad run D.
And honestly,
run D.
run the ball twice.
That's what we said. Yeah, run
and
it
if they
twice.
stop you,
Jeez.
then it's 1st and 99. And I know
Right.
the Vikings went 1st and 99 on them in Minnesota in week 2. Who cares? Different situation. The Vikings are a good team in a tough environment. Maybe we didn't know the Vikings were a good team then, but it's still a hostile environment. Like, to me, I'd be more inclined to take the points in Minnesota in week 2 from covering that game in person than I would be. Like, to me, go in and punch it in, assert your will over the Arizona Cardinals at home in a game that you really need to get. So I think that was just as bad a sequence, I think, as the 49ers have had all season. Like, run it twice, tip your cap, and play on from there. If you kick a 20-yard field goal, really? And so it looked like it wasn't going to matter, because then they had the blocked field goal going the other way, and Lenore took it in for a touchdown, and they were still up 20-10 after they took the free 3 points and got the other touchdown. But they just have a really difficult time to bring it back, maybe to Purdy a little bit. They have a difficult time throwing it into the end zone. Like, they have a tough time scoring touchdowns, throwing the ball with traditional basic pass plays in the Reds. Like, they either have to, typically they'll throw it short to McCaffrey, and McCaffrey will run it in, right? Or they'll just pitch it to McCaffrey, and he'll 1st and goal at the 6, and he'll get 4, and then they'll throw it, might throw it to him, or they'll give it to him again. He'll get 2, because he always gets 2 on every carry, seemingly. So I think there's 2 ways to fix the red zone. I think one is score explosively before you get to the red zone. And the Niners are doing a lot more of that last year also, right? Score from the 40, score from midfield. If you can't punch it in the red zone. But no, I think it comes down to the inability to run it down there, and then also getting a little too cute. I thought Kyle Shanahan got a little too cute on that 3rd and 1 in particular. And I think sometimes they get a little pass happy, like throw a screen, throw a little, run a jet sweep to somebody. Like, we just haven't seen a lot of creativity, I think, in the red zone with this 49ers team being shorthanded. But we also haven't seen just a willingness to line up, hat on a hat, and just kick somebody's ass and blow your guy off the ball and get a yard or get a half a yard and a half a yard on 2 plays and get it into the end zone and assert your will. So, long-winded answer, as I'm prone to do, but no, I think it's on Kyle, the red zone issues. And I think he lost his cheat code. Christian McCaffrey's the cheat code. He lost his cheat code. So now you got to figure it out. Because if you're punching it in earlier in the game, you're probably not losing these 10-point leads in the 4th quarter if you're up by 20 or 24.
Yeah, that's the count.
Bill M says JD is right. Oh, wait, I just put that up there and I took it down. JD is right. Only 26 rushes today. Yeah, I mean, you're going against a team that was really one of the worst run defenses in all of the NFL. The Cardinals had given up 8 rushing touchdowns coming into today. That was the most of any team in the NFL. It should have been a heavy dose of
Do you think
the run
Kyle,
game.
Larry, like you just read that, they've given up the most touchdowns in the red zone, 8, and you got 3rd and 1. Is Kyle trying to be too smart that he's being dumb because he's outsmarting himself, kind of like Farhan did with trying to?
I kind of
mean,
think it.
like,
Danny,
oh,
it's kinda like,
they
have
think
you ever
we're
gone
gonna
to
run,
a casino? You ever
I'm
gone to
gonna
a
pass.
casino and you're playing blackjack and you don't know how to play, or you're playing blackjack, you do know how to play, but somebody sits down at your table and they don't know how to play, and they're hitting on 16 and they're doing all these things and they're taking the dealer's bus card, and you're sitting there and you're like, I would give my left nut to make this person get off third base. I mean, if I could buy them a room at a space at another table, I would, just to get them out of my face. Well, I get the feeling that sometimes Kyle Shanahan doesn't have a philosophy and just tries a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. We'll try a little bit of that. And I don't know that he's got a concrete philosophy. Let's do this though. Let's do our better, by the way. We should tell people, Kev, we're just going to review our better situation, right? for what we did today on our Better stream. We should tell people that the live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use that promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. Kev, we didn't win, I don't think, today, did we?
We did win today.
We did win.
We hit.
We did win.
We hit on a Jordan Mason longest rush. Ayuk
Okay.
over yards and McBride over yards.
Look at that. So what do we win? We win good money?
$50.
Look at that. Look at that. So thanks to Better for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show, and sign up for Better. You guys are going to love it. You'll make real money like us, and you'll retire early, and it'll be a great thing.
And enter to win a jersey.
And you can enter to win a jersey of your choice, a Niner jersey of your choice and your size and your number and any jersey you want. Anthony Catania says, run the damn ball. Okay, let's go around the room and we'll finish up with this. We've been going for an hour and 34 minutes. And by the way, thank you to everybody who's in here. Please hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, just more people find us in the algorithm. If you hit subscribe and click that notification bell, anytime we go live, you'll get that notification. We're closing in right now on 50,000 subs. And I think we're going to get there before the end of the week. I'm hoping. So if you haven't hit subscribe, please subscribe. If you haven't hit like and subscribe, please hit like and subscribe. And thanks to everybody who joins us. This is by far the most people I think that will be watching any 49er content creator post-game show to this week. That's the way it's been the last few weeks. So we appreciate everybody joining us in this post-game window. We really do appreciate it. I'm a solution guy, and I can bitch and complain, and I like to bitch and complain, and I know a lot of us do. But I also like solutions. I like coming up with solutions. The Niners are not going to practice this week. They're going to buckle it up, try to roll themselves. They're going to roll all their bodies into a cold tub and the red room and all the different things that they use to try to speed up their recovery time. And they're going to go through some walkthroughs. They're going to formulate a new plan, and they're going to be back out there before we even blink an eye Thursday night against the Seahawks. And by the way, Dave Softy Mahler is going to stop by the Krug Show Tuesday night, or stop by the Niners Nightly, I should say, on Tuesday night. So check that out at 6:00. And JD hopefully will be by this week as well. But let's go with a solution, okay? There are some things that aren't solutions. Like, trading for Devontae Adams is probably not a solution. But if you want to go with that, go with that. But what is a solution maybe is play Jacob Cowing. Or what is a solution is cut Ronnie Bell and promote Terrace Marshall off the practice squad. Or what is a solution is, trade for Azeez Ojulari. Or, what would you do to try to what issue are you concerned about? And what would you do to fix that issue? If Kyle said to you, I need a solution. Give me some, let's go around the room and come up with some solutions that they can do. Do you activate Ricky Pearsall? I mean, let's be honest. This young man was shot, and because of that, his story is very unique, and he might be able to give this team, I was going to say a shot in the arm, but I'll say he'll give this team a lift because of what he's endured, and also because of his skill set and his ability. And maybe, they need something else in the red zone. This guy can if Brock knows where he's going to be and he goes to where he's supposed to be, this guy's a good route runner and can get open in a short area. Maybe Pearsall is the solution to their red zone issues. Let's go around the room. I don't care if you have one. I don't care if it's 10. Give me some solutions. Give me some ideas for solutions that they can implement as soon as Thursday night. Kev, we'll start with you.
Yeah, people are going to complain about the offense today. I think the offense is still top 5 offense. I think this offense has the pieces. You have the quarterback. You have the coach. You're getting Christian McCaffrey back. There's nothing on the offense I would change. Defensively, I think the defense is what's losing you games, especially late in these games. In the DB room, I would play Renardo Green more. See what you got in Renardo Green. He's young, he's fast, he's quick. Yadam is slow, and he's just not doing it. I really liked Yadam as a free agent, but he's just, in some of these moments, he's just not holding in coverage. And then obviously Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell to me is just slow, and Not a great tackler. I mean, he made some tackles today. He made it. I think he deflected a pass, but he's a far cry from Dre Greenlaw. And I'm not saying that you have another Dre Greenlaw on your roster, but you do have young linebackers that you drafted on this roster that know your system. I would like to see them potentially, work in some other linebackers that give you more speed and better tackling.
Isaac Hernandez says Kyle clearly does not have full confidence in his young running backs. These losses have been a display of his insecurities as a head coach. Rye, I'm sure you got a number of different thoughts. Give me a solution. What's a solution that we can go with starting this week?
Okay. Well, starting this week, first I'll address what Kevin was saying, because I kind of agree about the offense. I think, over the long run, yards tends to equate to points. I mean, they got yards in the second half and they've been putting up points. CMC is going to be the biggest change that's going to happen for the offense, but I wouldn't mind trading for some interior O-line help, because if this is really what Kyle wants to do, he wants to kind of play more of a drop back passing game, less play action, all that. I think that's fine, but you just can't have free rushers coming through, in critical moments of games. This team's never been built. I mean, there's a reason why Kyle thinks you can draft linemen in the later rounds, because his system affords you the ability to play with lesser linemen. Like, it's just how it is. So I think they need to trade for an interior O lineman if this is how they're going to play it. I also think, I was just watching out of the corner of my eye, I just watched Turpin have a sweet return on the first play of the game. They should trade for a legitimate weapon in special teams. It seems like a small thing, but are we really going to are the Niners going to roll out Trent Taylor for the rest of the year? You're just basically punting on having any advantage whatsoever in the kicking game. It seems like
sends the wrong
thing
message too, don't you think? It sends the wrong message
to bring in another.
No, it sends the wrong message to go with somebody who has no return ability at all.
It seems like Kyle's whatever, screw it.
You're taking the
things
loss.
are good. Yeah, our offense is good enough. Let's just make sure there's no mistakes in it. That's not. I mean, Dallas has been pretty bad this year, but between Turpin and Aubrey, they're stacking points. That's what it's about, is being able to stack points. And yeah, it's just. I mean, it's happened against the Niners where there's been these long returns. They just have to get a weapon back there. So those are the only two changes I would make right away.
Danny?
Well, it's probably not going to happen this week, but I would go try and still trade for DJ Jones with Denver. I mean, Denver's playing good defense. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think you can get Jones for the right draft pick and shore up that middle. The defense, they've got to find a way to stop the run. I mean, teams are just going right up the gut and getting 8-10 yards a carry, especially when they've got to stop them. And they're running. It's crazy. I mean, we knew the Cardinals were going to run to run out the clock that last drive, and they're just right up the middle. And Niners can't seem to stop them. And that would be one thing I would do. I'm with Rye on the offensive line. I think you've got to shore up the offensive line, but the most immediate need is they're going to have to go find a kicker this week. I don't know who's available. I'm just looking to see who's out there.
You got three kickers. I just looked this up. You have Brandon McManus, Randy Bullock, and Riley Patterson.
Fat Randy.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to get him in there tomorrow and have a little tryout. It looks like you can't go into Thursday night's game without a kicker.
JD, what do you think? We'll throw it to you. Give me a useful change that you would go with before Thursday.
Yeah, that's a really, really tough one. But and I think the Ricky Pearsall thing is coming after the game against Seattle. I think they didn't want to open up his practice window, given the fact that they weren't going to have very many practices, obviously, for this week. So I think that's probably coming next week after Seattle. I want to know. I want to know if Tatum Bethune can play. Can he play with Fred Warner? That would be the one. I know he was going to be the backup Mike.
That's interesting.
If Warner wasn't going to be able to go, because I just don't. I'm thinking I don't know what the answer is in terms of defensive linemen. I think I would go try to trade for a defensive tackle. So I'm with Danny on that one. But again, that's not a this week thing. I just don't think the 49ers currently have, like, Winters is too undisciplined. Jalen Graham is even more undisciplined than Winters. They bring him back. Javondre Campbell's not the answer. Obviously, I think we can all now agree on that. I gave him probably more the benefit of the doubt than anybody in this room for long, but it's done, and it's been done really since it's been done for about a week. And can you figure out a way? I know Flanagan Fowles will be coming back at some point, but I think they got to figure out another linebacker that can help cover and help fill against the run, because only Fred Warner, with some of the issues that they have in the interior defensive line, it's just not enough. So if you don't have the defensive line player, then you got to find another linebacker. And I'm not high on really a couple of the young guys as much. I don't know as much about, but it seems like Bethune is more disciplined and steady, and not going to make
productive.
a lot of mistakes.
He shows up at the ball. I mean, he's got a high football IQ. He knows how to play.
He's always
he's not the fastest or the biggest. He's 5'11", 230. But you know what he is he's just you saw JD, we talked about it this summer. There was a point, I even mentioned it to Tatum when I talked to him this week. There was a point this summer where he looked kind of lost in camp. And then all of a sudden, it was like second week of camp, a light switch flipped on, and this guy started showing up at the ball every freaking play in practice, in the preseason. So I love that idea, JD. I think Campbell is the guy you got to get off the field. Winters is fast but reckless. Graham is also fast but really inexperienced. Bethune lacks the speed, but he's a lot more sure. He's a little bit more of a sure thing.
They need better tacklers. They need
better
guys
tacklers. They got to get, and they got to tackle a little bit more up the field, not, in the backfield, not 3, 4, 5 yards down the field.
Yeah,
so I want to see more Renardo Green.
Giamoto Lenore has the third most tackles on your team. Giamoto Lenore has the third most tackles on your team. It's like, why? Right? Why is he getting the tackles so much? It's like because the front seven can't.
Yeah, Lenore, because he is like Greenlaw. He's a dog. He's tough, and he wants to hit. They've lost a little bit of this Niner defense. We forget because we watch it every day, and we don't notice the changes. But if you close your eyes and think about what this defense looked like a couple years ago, when they had Azeez Al-Shaair and Fred Warner and a healthy Dre Greenlaw, there was a swagger and there was an intimidation factor and there was a ferociousness that this defense doesn't have anything close to that. So
they're a little soft.
I would go change the linebacker. I would change the linebacker, and I love JD's idea. Go with Bethune and Warner. And then I'll tell you the other one that, if you can get something more out of Jordan Elliott, I think Jordan Elliott might be the guy that could really, I love what I see from time to time out of Jordan Elliott. I'd like to see that. And I would love to see Pearsall, just from the standpoint, I think his presence may give this team a lift, and they need something in the red zone. They need somebody to free themselves open in the red zone. And maybe Brock to Pearsall in the red zone might be exactly what the doctor ordered on that front. Two last supers here before we jet. Titus Moeller says, shouldn't BA, Debo, JJ Kittle, Mason, and Juice be enough to be really good? I feel like having CMC also is almost like a cheat code. Frustrated that it seems like we need CMC to be more than mediocre. I mean, there's enough talent that you should have scored more than 16 points at home against the Arizona freaking Cardinals.
Let me jump in real quick. I mean, here's the thing. Go back to 21. I mean, this team with a much better defense was 3-5, and then they basically made Debo Samuel the Christian McCaffrey in the wide back, and they went 7-2, and they made the playoffs and got all the way to the NFC Championship game. They were 3-4 when they went and got I guess 3-4 after the Chiefs game that McCaffrey played in, when the Chiefs rolled him at Levi's. Remember, he came on the Friday and played 2 days later a little bit, and the Chiefs blew the 49ers out here at Levi's. So they were 3-4. And then they didn't lose again until Philadelphia. In the
Right.
NFC Championship game. So, but they have not, like, you take one, and I've been all over this. Even in the middle of the year last year, you take one guy away, and the whole thing looks completely different. The whole thing looks more. And again, I still think, like everybody has said, that the offense has enough talent to function, and they should have won the game today regardless. But you take one away, and the margin for error changes so much to where the Niners can just lose to anybody any day now with a defense that's a lot more leaky.
They need more Lindy Waters. I mean, there's no question about that. The way that kid shoots the rock, they need more Lindy Waters.
For 3.
Seriously, I love
He had the
watching
game
that
winner,
kid.
though.
That guy can flat out shoot. By the way, great job, JD, in Hawaii. I heard your interview Friday night with GP2, and dude, that was spectacular. I mean, that was really, really good stuff. If people want to check out your stuff from Hawaii this week, like your interview with GP2, where is that stuff live? Is it KMBR.com, JD?
It's KMBR.com. They're all podcasted, but you can also, and I would encourage everybody to go to the KMBR YouTube page, because all of the videos from the interviews, we videoed them all there from the BYU Hawaii gym, and threw them. Austin Scott from the digital department, I sent him back. He was able to trim them up, make them look nice, and throw them on the KMBR YouTube page. So yeah, all of those are up there. And check them out.
How many are there?
It was Jerry Stackhouse. It was GP2, Brandon Pajemski, and Kyle Anderson were the big 4. There were some other shorter ones just with clips that we played a little bit on Friday night's show, but the big ones were those 4 that we aired on Friday. But yeah, check them all out on the YouTube page. Really, really, really fun week, and a lot of great coverage and just information to glean. I mean, Larry, the only way you really can cover a team is by being present. And if the Warriors were going to be going to Hawaii for this first week, then you got to be in Hawaii for that first week, man. You wouldn't just say, hey, I can't go to the first 6 Niner practices, right? Like you can't do that. Like you got to go and see what's going on and talk to people.
Tough assignment.
And by the way, if you speed up the Anderson interview, it's at regular speed because he's normally in slow-mo. Matthew Rowley says, too bad the Niners don't get to play against Shanahan every week. He would see our weakness was our run D and outsmart everyone by not running. Wow, there's a lot of anti-Shanahan. Space Cowboy says Lynch and Kyle didn't identify and address defensive weaknesses. Now they're trying to figure things out, so it feels like we're still in preseason mode. It definitely does feel like they're in preseason mode. There's like a lack of urgency that you would normally not have this time of the year. All right, that is going to do it for us. Thanks to Better, thanks to Pig and a Pickle, thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, thanks to all of our panel. Rye, why don't we promote whatever you want to promote before you get out of here, and tell people where they can find you and what kind of stuff you're putting out there for people who want to check out Rye. He's a great follow at West Coast Smitty on X. But Rye, tell people if they want to check out where they can find you.
That's just it for right now. Just on Twitter. Just a Twitter guy right now. But YouTube will be making a comeback at some point in the season.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.
Appreciate you. Danny, Farhan's out. Do you have a purpose in life now that Farhan's already out? I mean, where do you go from here? I mean,
yeah, well, we have been covering.
What do you do now? I mean,
we're
you
doing
just
all
hang
kinds
around
of
the
stuff.
HOA and try to be a male version of Karen. I mean, what do you do?
Well, we've been covering the playoffs, the MLB playoffs. We've also been covering. We did a Cal postgame show last night. We got over. Couldn't believe it. We got over a couple thousand views. Nobody was talking at 11:30 at night. Cal, Miami. I had all these Miami people in the chat.
Game refused to end.
Yeah, that was
11:30. That game ended.
It's like 2:30 Miami time, and they're still kicking the Cal's butt at the end of the game.
Not in Honolulu, baby. Honolulu had it right.
Prime time.
It was dinner theater.
That's right. So Hey, I was going to put up the in the chat here my link here. See, I'll do it there. There we go. It'll show up there in a sec. I put the link into
Yeah, make
NorCal.
sure you take that out. Take that down.
Yeah,
No,
take
no,
that
go
down.
ahead.
We'll be on tonight,
It's a
8:45.
violation of
Violation
rules.
of YouTube.
Yeah, we're actually going to do a show tonight. 2 shows. We got an 8:45 show. We're going to do a quick show on Giants GM search.
Who's it going to be? Sabes?
You know, it could be Sabes. I don't know if he's going to do the everyday job though, if he's just going to if he's going to do an advisor. But I'm looking into some other teams. You know, I keep hearing Billy Owens with the A's, but I think there's a few other
I
guys
texted him
out
the
there.
other day. He would love to have this job.
That would be awesome.
Billy would
That would
love
be
to have this job. Billy Owens is a Bellarmine guy. He's WCAL guy.
I heard
smart as a whip. He'd be
David Force
fantastic.
said they haven't he hasn't heard from the Giants yet. That was
Well,
a
we'll see
couple
where it
days ago.
goes. So what time you're going live tonight, Danny?
Yeah, 8:45. We're going to go live.
Okay.
We'll talk, and then we're going to go at live again at 9:45. We're going to do a little Warriors preview.
Nice.
Season preview on the Warriors. So
Who's coming by for that?
I think Los will be on. Maybe Rye. I don't know if Rye's. We were going to do it Monday, but we moved it to tonight. So
Well, I'll look for it. Maybe I'll listen to it on the way back.
yeah. And
All right, Danny, have a great night.
You're
man.
welcome
Thanks.
to join JD if you're available. I don't know. I know you're the Warriors guru.
What time?
9:45.
Okay. Let
You
me.
available?
Yeah,
Look
might
at that.
be. I might be.
If you can get the great John Dickinson
Yeah,
to
if we
go
can get
boots on the
JD to
ground
come
on
on, that would
NorCal
be-
Sports
Right
Network,
off
That
the
would make the
Hawaii
show.
stint. Right off the Hawaii stint too.
That would
Look
be
at that.
would be
I mean-
nice because I'd love to hear from JD.
Well,
So
what are you offering? I'll be JD's agent. What exactly are you offering, Farhan? What are you what are you offering? You always
Yeah,
seem
well,
like you're like Farhan. You always want to win the deal. What do
win
you
the deal. I'll,
as JD's agent? JD with like a town car.
how about AJ Pollock?
Well,
all right, Danny.
some
good
other
stuff.
time, Danny.
I lost out on the deal, man. No, if you're available, shoot me. Let's see. How can I? I'll
Just shoot you.
Shoot me
Just
a text. or something.
DM me on Twitter. That's
I'll
probably
DM,
the easiest way.
I'll DM
Yeah.
you. Yeah. All
DM
right.
stands for direct message, Dan.
I got that.
There
Thank
you go.
you.
Just double checking.
Shut up.
Danny, have a great night. Appreciate
Thanks.
you. Say hi to all the people at the HOA. All right. And like that, he was gone. All right, JD. Hawaii. Now that you're grinding, you've worked with us, you've done all the KMBR duties. You know, you're talking about maybe jumping on with Danny. When will we hear you on the leader next? By the way, I jumped in on your time slot. We traded time slots on the pregame show. You have a very early time slot, and I was still walking around with my pajamas, doing the hit this morning.
I appreciate you doing that. That allowed for me enough time to get off of the flight and get home for a little bit, and then head down to Levi's and be able to do it with them in person. I got the early slot. I told Tim Webb, or we'll switch it back, but I appreciate you trading with me today. It made everything
sweat.
seamless with the overnight flight and all of that.
No, I owed you one. You've jumped on Niners Nightly a couple times, and I appreciate that. But when will you be on tomorrow morning, or when's your next hit on KMBR?
Yeah, I'm going to be off tomorrow, and then we're talking about doing something Tuesday. Tuesday's going to be the big 49er day at practice. I'm going to,
Right.
And so that's kind of a long, that's a long day. I think they're going to go into the evening in terms of the media availabilities. I think it's going to be that late afternoon type of a schedule with a lot of the pressers. So I'm going to be doing that, and then I'm heading up to Seattle. Also, I'm going to be covering the Warriors Kings game on Wednesday from Sacramento. So preseason game number 2. And then I'm heading to, so this is kind of this is a heavy travel time and travel week. So it's going to be a little bit more hit or miss this week as far as when I'm going to be on, but I will be on each show at some point this week, and look for the Just Dubs podcast as well. Cause we're for the preseason, myself and Greg Silver, great producer, we're going to be doing a couple of Just Dubs podcasts off of the 2 preseason games that the Warriors have this week. They play Wednesday and Friday, both against the Kings. And in between those games, I'm going to be in Seattle. So I'm going to be in Sacramento for Warriors Kings Wednesday. I'm going to be in Seattle for Niners Seahawks Thursday.
Wow.
And then I'm going to be at chase for Warriors Kings Part 2. They play a second game on Friday against each other. So a lot of travel, a lot of back and forth. So yeah, I'm not locked in for any full shows this week. Just hits.
All right. We'll check out JD throughout the week, covering Warriors, covering Niners, doing it all exceptionally well. And you will not see better Warrior coverage anywhere on the AM or FM dial than what you're getting on KMBR with JD. So, JD, awesome stuff. Maybe we'll see you and we'll walk out to our car here in a minute. We'll see you in a few.
Sounds good. Thanks, Larry.
Right.
See you, Kev.
See you,
There
John.
you go. The great John Dickinson checking out. And wait. Oh, there we go. Kev, you got a final thought?
I do
Appreciate all
actually-
that you've done. We've had a busy day today. We've
can I
been
play
grinding all
something?
week.
Can I play something? I actually have a really interesting clip that I want to play from the presser that I don't think a lot of people saw.
Yeah, please do.
Or
Please do.
I think it's pretty interesting. Tell me what you think.
Okay.
Let me pull it up really quick. This was Bosa asked about the Cardinals run D in the second half, or not the Cardinals run D, the Cardinals run or like run O, James Conner, and he kind of hinted that like the Niners haven't been preparing like how they should have. You just take a listen.
Okay.
Yeah. And Connor had like 12, 14 yards before their last two drives, and he had 72. Were they doing anything differently with him?
They were giving us a different look on the zone read, and I think in all of our losses, the preparation we've had has been great, but teams are playing us different and doing things differently, and we need to adjust a little better. Just showing different looks and kind of than what we were looking at on tape. So just got to adjust and get them down.
So he's saying that the Niners defense is getting different looks from opposing offenses than what they've been preparing for, and that they need to do a better job adjusting to
In game,
what they're getting in game.
Right.
That's interesting. That'll be worth a follow up this week. Good hustle, man. That was good stuff. That was really good. You got a final thought, or is that your final thought?
My final thought is subscribe. We're almost at 50K. Follow the socials. Give us a review on the podcast feed. If you wherever you get your podcasts, look up the Krug Show. Give us a review. We definitely have listeners on there, but we don't have as many reviews as we should got. So just if the right people leave reviews, give us a 5-star. Be much appreciated. Also, the Better link. If you sign up with Better, we just hit for $50 this week, and we're gonna keep hitting. I have a feeling we're gonna keep hitting, even if the Niners aren't winning. We're gonna keep hitting. If you sign up, you're automatically entered to win a jersey. We're going to be giving away jerseys. I say jerseys because I think we're going to give out multiple. So whatever, we'll be emailing people that are the winners, and we'll just say, hey, what jersey do you want? What size are you? Whatever jersey you want. It's on the Krug Show for playing Better. It's fun, and you get to enter to win a free jersey.
D says Pop and Son, the dynamic duo. And we got to do a few more. We haven't done our call-in show, Kev. We got to do a call-in show this week. What do you think of that?
I feel like we definitely should do a show on Sunday because the Niners play on Thursday. So then maybe we'll do like a post NFL stream on Sunday next week.
Next week, but
this
you don't want to do
week.
you don't want to do a call-in deal. We haven't talked to Mo Easy in a while. It's been a while.
Well, I mean, we could do call-ins then. I'm just thinking because you're pretty booked. I mean, you have shows every day.
I am pretty booked.
It's not really a me problem.
I know. Well, hey, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Kev. It's time to head home. Time to, rough one here. Long day. Hope everybody enjoyed our coverage. Thanks for joining me on the KMBR pregame show and the KMBR postgame show. I'll be on tomorrow night for Niners Nightly, and we'll review this game. And we're going to take phone calls. We're not going to have any guests on Monday night. We're just going to take calls, and we're going to react to this thing. And if you want to fire Kyle, you're going to get a chance to say that on KMBR. So tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Tuesday night, Dave Softy Mahler is going to be in the house. Wednesday night, I'm not really sure. Thursday night, we'll have the game. Wednesday night, JD. I just booked JD on a Wednesday night. You just saw radio booking. Kev, did you see what I just did there? I looked to my right.
I've seen that before.
I saw JD the way Brock sometimes will see Ayuk, like on like a slant. I saw JD peripheral vision. I've got my focus is right here on you, Kev, and on the stream, but my peripheral saw JD, and then he said he gave me the kind of the this kind of a thing, which was like a Wednesday sign. I then executed the Wednesday. I threw the offer out there. JD, how about Wednesday? He threw it back to me with a thumbs up. We now have JD booked on Wednesday.
Boom.
It just boom. Exactly. Boom shakalaka. All right. That does it. That does it for us. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Krug Show. Hit like and subscribe. We're enjoying it. Hope you're enjoying it. Check me out on Niners Nightly, Monday through Friday on the Sports Leader. For Kev, I'm Larry. Have a great night. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.